All right, man, peace. The Kawhi Leonard narrative has lasted for the duration of this entire previous NBA season. And as I've stated in the videos that I've made following this issue, eventually Kawhi Leonard was going to demand a trade, particularly in the offseason, once it would be ascertained by he and his group that the situation in San Antonio would just be too untenable for him to maintain there. I think that Gregg Popovich overplayed his hand. He thought that he was a little bit smarter and shrewder than he actually was. I think that he underestimated Kawhi Leonard's intelligence and his backbone, and it ended up blowing up in his face. Fortunately for Popovich, there was a year left on Kawhi Leonard's contract, so they could trade him and receive back some assets for him. Because had this been Kawhi Leonard's last season, there's no doubt in my mind he would have left San Antonio with no regrets, and Popovich would have been left with egg on his face. Well, in the aftermath of Kawhi Leonard being dealt to the Toronto Raptors for DeMar DeRozan, Gregg Popovich held a press conference. Let's see what he had to say. Of course, I'm going to chime in.
We got breaking news into SportsCenter. Spurs head coach Gregg Popovich is expected to address the media any moment from San Antonio. As soon as he takes the mic, we will take you straight out there. This is breaking news because it comes just hours after the Kawhi Leonard trade saga came to an end. We knew that Kawhi wanted to leave San Antonio for Los Angeles. Well, he's headed completely the opposite direction. The Spurs trading Kawhi to Toronto for DeMar DeRozan. And along that, the Raptors will also receive Danny Green in the deal. San Antonio is getting Jakob Poeltl and a protected 2019 first-round pick as well. Kawhi is one of just 3 players to win Defensive Player of the Year and NBA Finals MVP honors at any point in his career. For more on this, we welcome in our senior NBA reporter, Brian Windhorst. Brian, anyone following the story knew that
And kudos to Brian Windhorst. He was on top of this situation. He was on top of this story for a very long time. He was reporting that the Toronto Raptors had the lead in the Kawhi Leonard negotiations for a possible trade probably about 4 or 5 days before it happened. So kudos to him.
That a trade was bound to happen. However, Toronto came into the picture as of recent. How did this deal go down?
Well, they were really the beneficiaries, Tony, of the other frontrunners backing away from giving the Spurs a package of young players and higher-level draft picks. The Lakers were unwilling to include Brandon Ingram. The 76ers were unwilling to include Markelle Fultz. The Celtics were unwilling to include Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. And because of that, they really couldn't get any traction. So that's why this deal got made.
I think that this is going to be a beneficial trade for both teams. Despite what many of the media pundits are stating about Kawhi Leonard, I do think that he will eventually possibly give Toronto a chance to re-sign him. Although it may be a remote chance, I think that at the end of this season, after doing a year with this club and seeing exactly what the city of Toronto has to offer, as well as whether or not he wants to continue to be coached by the incumbent coach of the Toronto Raptors, I believe his last name is Nurse, he's going to have to reevaluate whether or not he wants to recalibrate what he wants. And despite what many people assert about Kawhi, I do think that he's a little bit more flexible than they give him credit for. I also understand that with his personality, he's someone that likes to stick to his guns, and he's not someone to be played with, and I respect that. But I do believe that by the end of this season, or maybe even by the All-Star break, he's going to have a discussion with the Toronto Raptors front office, and they're going to ask him how serious he is about staying. And if he's not serious about staying by the All-Star break, they may move him at that point. I don't think that Toronto is going to allow him to stay the entire season and not be sure of whether or not he's taking them seriously as a team that he wants to be with. So we'll find out. But on the San Antonio side, I think that Popovich receiving quote-unquote damaged goods in DeMar DeRozan is good for him because it will allow him to play the healing nurse to DeMar DeRozan. We all know that DeMar is very sensitive and has been quite transparent about his mental health issues. And I expect Gregg Popovich to play on that, being the master manipulator that he is.
All right, Brian, we'll be back with you. Now let's listen in to Gregg Popovich live from San Antonio.
Everybody ready? Okay. Well, as you all know, that's why you're here. The trade has been made, and Kawhi and Danny are moving on to Toronto, and DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl are coming to San Antonio. We hope that this will be a good situation. for everybody involved.
No, you don't. You could care less if it's a good situation for everybody involved. You're only concerned that it's a good situation for the Spurs, and I don't begrudge you that. But don't stand there and act as if you're concerned about Kawhi Leonard's fate. You went out there to California to try to get a sit-down meeting with Kawhi Leonard, and he gave you his ass cheeks to kiss. You know it, and I know it. So you say, you know, we're going to ship this guy to whatever location we can get the best prospects and best assets back, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just good business. But you don't care about Kawhi.
Kawhi obviously worked very hard to become the player he is. Our staff worked very hard to help him get there, and we wish him all the best as he.
Now, we just heard Gregg Popovich state our staff worked very hard to help him get there. That was a subliminal shot at Kawhi Leonard and his team for alleging that the medical staff and the coaching staff on San Antonio were not as supportive as they should have been.
He moves on to Toronto. I think that he's going to be great. Danny Green will be missed. He's been here quite a while, and
you're not going to miss Danny Green, other than having to look for a new whipping boy, because that's what Danny Green was for you. He was your main whipping boy.
He was a big part of what we do, both on and off the court. He was a great community guy, and we're going to miss him very much. With DeMar coming to San Antonio, I couldn't be happier. I think this trade is going to be good for both teams. DeMar is obviously, a four-time All-Star and an All-NBA player. He's been great in the community there, a team player, somebody that I've respected and watched play for a while now, and we're thrilled to have him here. Jakob is a young talent that I think has a great opportunity to develop into a very good NBA player. So we're very anxious to get them involved in the program and let them know, how we do things and have them become important parts of the program.
Do you think you had a fair chance to mend relations with Kawhi?
Well,
why would you ask Gregg Popovich if he has a good chance to mend relations with Kawhi Leonard? If he felt like that was a possibility, they would have kept him. It's a dumb question.
Well, Kawhi conducted himself wonderfully while he was here. He helped.
Stop lying. If you truly felt like he conducted himself wonderfully while he was there, you would not have tried to assassinate his character subliminally to the media multiple times last regular season. You were frustrated by what you thought was his unwillingness to come back and support his team and you in your quest to keep your regular season 50-game winning streak per season streak going, as well as a possibility that you thought they had to win a championship with Kawhi Leonard in the lineup. That's truly how you felt about Kawhi. You're also upset that he was so non-communicative with you and the rest of the Spurs front office, because it took away the potentiality for you to try to manipulate him.
Helped us win a fifth championship. As I said, he was a hard worker all the time, and we wish him well, but at this point, it's time to move on. I'm concerned about Jakob and DeMar and our basketball team and putting that together. We got a lot of young kids, and it's exciting, but
stop lying, Greg. It's not exciting. You counting the time. You're watching the grains of sand run out of the hourglass. You're like, I got 2 more years left of this shit, and I'm going to take my ass to my vineyard and drink some wine and just chill out for the rest of my life. That's what you're thinking about. You're not worried about teaching no young kids anything.
In no way, shape, or form does it do any good to go back in time and talk about A, B, or C. It's time to move on.
What's been the hardest part about all of this for you?
Finding the appropriate team to trade Kawhi Leonard's crazy ass to. That's what you want to say, Greg.
Trades and cuts are always the worst. When you have camps every year and you got to look guys in the eye and say, well, we're going to let you go. That's always tough. And trades are...
No, it's not. Stop lying.
Trades are tough. I talked to Kawhi on the phone. I talked to Danny
Trades are only tough when you're losing the best player in the deal, like you are with Kawhi Leonard.
On the phone, those are personal relationships that you have with people, and that's always difficult. It's probably the toughest part of our profession.
Can you tell us about
The real issue is that it's very clear that you went overboard with your liberal Caucasian wokeness, and you underestimated the potential for there to be a prominent black player on your team that was not going to be receptive to your liberal bullshit. That's really what happened, Gregg Popovich.
that phone call with Kawhi? What'd you say? How did that?
He doesn't know me very well, does he? No, those are all personal communications.
Were you glad you'll only have to face Kawhi once a year?
Well, Kawhi, he's not going to stop being a great player. But as I said, we're thrilled with the trade we were able to make, and we're going to make it great.
Tomorrow is a fixture in Toronto.
That's a nice little stat, but Kawhi Leonard was not the best player on all those Spurs teams. But once again, that just goes to show you how underrated Magic Johnson and Larry Bird have become in the almost 30 years since they both retired. That people state without a doubt that LeBron James is better than the both of them. I mean, look at their winning percentages. That's basically 3 out of every 4 games they won in their first 400 games. That means basically their first 5 years in the NBA, they were winning 3 out of every 4 games.
So did you talk to him and how you expect
I've not had a chance. He's otherwise engaged at the moment, and I'll be talking to him a little bit later this afternoon.
Pop, I know you've dealt with him in USA basketball. Can you give us, and those who don't know DeMar very well, kind of...
Well, I haven't really dealt with him. I mean, just for the record.
Okay.
Well, as we all know, you're going to have to learn how to deal with him because, as can be easily perceived by his performances in big spots, he's not a very good clutch player, and he does not respond well to pressure. That's why he's had multiple mental breakdowns, as he himself has asserted. Not just himself, but his backcourt mate Kyle Lowry. So, Gregg Popovich, you're certainly going to have to work your magic and mind control.
Okay.
I mean, I will next week.
Okay.
But, he was on the Olympic team, and when I was there, we coached the development group that played against him. So I don't have a personal relationship with DeMar at this point. But, we've done our background work and talked to a lot of people, and without exception, I've got a pile of emails on my desk already from people that understand, what kind of a person he is. Everybody knows what kind of player he is, but off the court, he's been very active and heartfelt, in his community. So I'm sure that he'll do the same thing here.
When you think so much of Kawhi, we all know what you did.
I'm sorry?
When you think so much of Kawhi, as we all know that you did over the years, was it awkward to be in a position where you're trying to figure out how to get value for him and to be able to replace him in a way?
Sure. You have a relationship with individuals over a number of years, and in a professional sense, that relationship stops. But hopefully you move on and you continue an off the court relationship with people. I've been around here.
He don't want an off the court relationship with you, Popovich. He's done with your ass. He let you know that when you flew out there to California and tried to work some Jedi mind trick bullshit on him, and he told you to head your ass back to the airport and make sure that you kick every rock on the way there.
Around here a long time, and there are a lot of people that I still keep in touch with. An awful lot of people from many years ago, and I'll be coaching Kawhi next week in USA basketball.
No, you won't. He ain't trying to see your ass.
So
What's that going to be like?
I look forward to it.
How difficult has this off season been for you personally and professionally?
It's been difficult.
When it became obvious that a trade was going to happen, how difficult is it to thread that needle between, getting assets back that you can remain competitive and also build for the future?
Well, the Spurs would have been competitive had they gotten nothing back. Keep in mind that team almost won 50 games last year without their best player. Getting DeMar DeRozan back, once again, They won 47 games last year. One would expect them to win at least 53 to 54 games with a DeMar DeRozan. That team is going to be a major player in the Western Conference.
Well, of course it is, and I'm sure that I can't speak for Toronto, but obviously, but I thought our staff did an unbelievably great job in bringing back quality players, quality people, and in DeMar, a proven all-star. I have to be thrilled with that, and I am.
Following on what Jeff is asking, was the emphasis in all this to be as good as you can be next year, or was there kind of a balance between being good long term?
We've never been a short-term organization. We've thought short.
Well, I have a hard time believing that you've never been a short-term organization when one of your best bench players is 40 years old, that being Manu Ginobili. So you're not going to tell me that you're thinking 5 years down the line, Gregg Popovich. I'm not saying that you guys don't have a long-term plan, but don't tell me that you've never thought short-term. As a matter of fact, short-term thinking is the reason why the breach occurred between yourself and Kawhi Leonard in the first place, because if you were a long-term thinker exclusively, you would never have put the pressure on him that he and his team allege you put on him that caused that fissure between you and him in the first place.
Short term and long term, both at the same time, what's good for the organization from 2 decades ago. So that's not something that, the values stay the same. What we think makes the program tick and be consistent stays the same. It has nothing to do with the number of years. I think we've sustained a pretty good level of excellence for a very long time, more than most. And hopefully that'll continue, and I'm confident it will.
I'm confident it will as well. I think that DeMar DeRozan is going to fit in very well with your team. He's going to have a lot to prove. He should consider himself very lucky. He's bitter that he's been traded away from the team that drafted him, but the fact of the matter is that there are not many players that get traded from a team that won 59 games to a team that just might well win 59 games the next season. So once again, he should consider himself fortunate.
With someone like DeMar and a young player like Jakob that can develop.
What about losing Tony Parker this offseason?
Well, I've already done a video about the Tony Parker release, quote unquote. The reason why they got rid of Tony Parker was because that was their last-ditch attempt to try to appease Kawhi Leonard, as far as I see it. And of course, it didn't work.
That was real tough. But, he's good. He's going to be in San Antonio forever. He'll come back after he's done playing in Charlotte, and we'll still drink wine together and, go to dinner and watch the kids grow. But, there's a season for everything and a time and place for everything. And this was really good for Tony. He'll get more playing time.
How do you know how much playing time he's going to get on another team? That's how you know the whole Tony Parker storyline and their reason for letting him go is balderdash. In reality, you said to yourselves, we might still have a sliver of a chance to keep Kawhi. Let's get rid of Tony and see if that will appease Kawhi and make him want to stay. And of course, it didn't.
It'll kind of rejuvenate him a little bit. I think he's really excited to be there in Charlotte. And we've got some young kids that we need to develop, DeJounte and Derek White, Bryn, so forth.
Coach, for some time we saw...
There's no way in the world that you're going to tell me that Tony Parker is going to be backing up Kemba Walker and get more playing time backing up Kemba Walker than he would have being the backup to DeJounte Murray.
The Kawhi being traded, to all the rumors. But when it came down to the final decision, what led to include Danny Green in that trade? Was it a franchise decision, or was it?
Well, in trades, money has to match to a certain degree, and so that limits you to certain players that have to be included. And in this case, that fell upon Danny, more or less. So it was tough because he's come such a long way. We cut him twice, and over the years he turned into Danny Green, and we're very proud of him for that and very happy for him. He's set for life, and I think he'll enjoy Toronto.
In other words, Danny Green was the throw-in And if I'm Kawhi Leonard, I got to watch my back. Did Gregg Popovich include Danny Green in the trade so that he could watch Kawhi and slip something in his food or some shit? You know Popovich got a history associated with the CIA. He might have told Danny Green, this is your last mission if you choose to accept it. This San Antonio playbook is going to explode in 15 seconds. This is Operation Get Rid of Kawhi.
Recently, did you feel that Kawhi, there was still a chance that he might would stay?
We talked often over the summer about a lot of different things, both on and off the court. So, attempts were made, to see what would be best, and in the end, this trade appeared, and we felt that this was the way to go.
Is there any question still about his health? Kawhi's health?
I don't think so. No.
There's never been any question about Kawhi Leonard's health in the view of the San Antonio medical staff. Once again, that's where this problem came from in the first place.
What about Manu? Any thoughts, feelings?
Manu is chasing bears up in the Northwest. Totally. Well, let's see. He's a free agent, right? So I guess he's not under contract. He's still. Oh, that's right. He's under. Yeah, he's that kind of thing. Whatever. So that means that we could make his contract null and void because of the hang gliding and the bear chasing and zip lining stuff that he's doing up there. So I sent an investigator to watch it. If we get it on film, because you got to prove it in court. So we're trying to get some film on him.
You said you're never going to let him retire. He's going like a tube of toothpaste. You're going to squeeze into him.
It's kind of funny. About 2 weeks ago, I sent him a picture when he was younger, and he's dunking over somebody, and his hair is flying all over, and it was kind of a hint, like, you can keep doing this sort of thing. And he sent me back a picture of like my first year here as an assistant. So, I'm not sure what that meant, like, you're crazy, and you're old too, or something.
That's exactly what that meant. He thought you were telling him that he was old, so he was letting you know how old your ass is too.
I don't know.
There's a narrative out there that Kawhi was this bad teammate because he was on the bench and he wasn't around on the playoffs.
That's all ridiculous.
That was all ridiculous, but you're the reason why that sentiment was getting propagated in the first place, because you were trying to pressure him into coming back to play with the team. He realized that the atmosphere was getting so hot because of what you were trying to foster through the media that he decided to depart. And he showed great scruples in doing so.
Kawhi was a great teammate the whole way through. He did his work. He was no problem for anybody, but talking heads out there have to have stories, and I get it. If I was a talking head, well, maybe I am.
Ding. That's you acknowledging that you plant stories in the media. I agree with you, sir. You are a talking head.
I have stories too, but
ding.
All those stories that denigrated him in that regard. That was unfortunate.
That was collateral damage. That's exactly what you wanted. You wanted an atmosphere to be created where he was being denigrated so that there would be so much pressure put upon him that he would be forced to either confide in you or conform to what you wanted. That was the game that you were playing, and you failed, sir.
And inaccurate.
Speaking of that, with us not knowing what to believe, was money ever an issue as far as the max deal? Was that offer? Was that an issue at all?
Kawhi just wants to play basketball. He doesn't care about money.
If money was the issue, he would have stayed with the Spurs. That's a silly question.
You mentioned about Tony.
I mean, we all want to pay our bills, and he cares to that degree, but he's okay.
But was it sadness to see Kyle go too? Because he had just found his
Kyle,
role last year.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys. I knew we'd bring him up one by one, and this is like the end of the year deal that I never did. Sorry. Kyle was very difficult, but this was kind of like we've had some in the past, like Corey Joseph or Baines. You get a contract like that, and you got to take it. That would have been very difficult for us to match that contract. So when you have somebody like that, and you watch them develop, and they leave, and it's for the right reasons. He's got a career. He's got to take care of it. We've had other people, as I said, in that position where they move on to a bigger contract after they develop. So he was special here. Off the court, on the court. Again, a great teammate. I mean, I can't think of anybody we've had here who hasn't been a great teammate. So that goes without saying. It's kind of part of the definition of being here. So he'll be great in Memphis. I'll hate playing against him. As we said, he's always like a utility infielder. He does everything. He plays, 3 or 4 different positions. I mean, we put him at the point, running pick and roll half the time last year. He played second most minutes on our team last year, for those who don't know that. He is a special player.
He's along those lines, Bob, Rudy Gay coming back. So you've got to be happy about that.
No, I'm thrilled about it. He played through all that injury last year, and there had to be some trepidation on his part, whether his ankles, his Achilles would hold up, that sort of thing. And
that's another shot at Kawhi Leonard. He's talking about Rudy Gay, and he states there had to have been some trepidation on Rudy Gay's part due to him coming back from an Achilles injury. In other words, he played through it. Kawhi Leonard would not do so.
He played through it all. And there were times when, he was our go-to guy. There were certain games that he won for us because he scored.
Once again, he's taking another subliminal shot at Kawhi Leonard. If Kawhi Leonard is going to try to make an excuse that he would not come back because he did not want to have to fulfill such a prominent role on the team, and you cannot compare my injury to Rudy Gay's because Rudy Gay is just a role player. Gregg Popovich is stating right here, Rudy Gay came back from an Achilles injury, and he was our top scorer when we needed him to be, and he didn't cry and complain. That's what he's basically saying.
And we're looking forward to him being even healthier this year, and obviously he enjoyed being here, so he signed up again. And
that's his way of saying Kawhi Leonard did not enjoy being here.
He'll be an important part of what we do.
Did you guys pick his brain at all? Because him and DeMar are very close. They had some time up in Toronto together.
I did not know they were close until after the fact.
In the end, Bob, was the Kawhi thing just not going to work, and do you feel comfortable that the organization and you did everything you could to make it work?
At this point, my main interest is definitely not to look back. It doesn't do us any good whatsoever. I'm thrilled to have DeMar and Jakob join us. And from that point on, that's where my focus will be. I'm not too interested in talking about the past. I don't even want to talk about Tim Duncan.
For you,
It's true.
a couple of years, you mentioned that in the West you got to have firepower. Do the moves that you make this offseason, including adding DeMar, shift to more of an offensive focus in the scoring that you had this summer?
I don't think in the West you have to have firepower. I actually think the opposite. I think that you have to build your team to try to do the opposite of what Golden State does and just do that as well as what Golden State does, because if you try to beat Golden State at what they do, you're going to lose.
You got to shoot the basketball, and DeMar does that well. But the rest of the makeup of the team, having Derek White develop, having Bryn come back, having Rudy come back, all people who can shoot it. Adding Marco Bellinelli, is important. So those things, round out and helps LaMarcus, do his thing down there. But that shooting will help us a great deal.
How much differently will DeMar and LaMarcus interact versus Kawhi and LaMarcus?
Well, I don't know. You could talk about that all night long. That's one of those questions that,
A lot of the chemistry built, the way the Spurs play is because of that camaraderie they have over the years. But now we have Tony, we have Kyle, we have Danny, Kawhi. All these guys that basically had chemistry. How are the new guys going to fill in those spots? Do you already have in mind somebody who's going to take over the Tony spot, Kyle spot, based on the new guys?
Well,
the only way for new players on the team to build chemistry is to play together. You can't ask players to come in and be whoever it was that just left. Every person is different, so that's what makes a great coach. Not that you try to make players into what you want them to be, but to take what they do well and optimize it.
DeJounte Murray is our point guard. I think that's probably pretty obvious to everybody. But as far as the way the team rounds out in the minutes and how they're issued, is going to be determined when training camp comes and, after that. So we don't decide and put that in stone ahead of time. But we've got a great group to work with, and we've changed the team before. I mean, every championship that Timmy played on was a little bit different. So this year will be not much different than other years. We had a lot of additions last year. The year after Timmy retired, we won 61 games and went to the conference finals. The team changed. And, last year, under tough circumstances, the 47 wins I thought was an excellent effort on the part of the team. And there were a lot of players that hadn't played a whole lot in the past. So, we'll do it again, but we'll have an even more talented crew this year than we had last year.
I agree. I think that San Antonio is going to be a dark horse in the Western Conference. Everyone's talking about Houston and the Lakers and Utah. San Antonio, with more scoring, they're going to be a serious problem. It would not shock me to see them knock off anybody in the Western Conference other than Golden State.
With everything you've endured this season, does that motivate you to want to keep going?
Well, of course it does. But, when you say that we've endured, this is basketball. And enduring, I think, is pretty much a misnomer. You're just playing a child's game and getting paid for it.
I agree. A misnomer and hyperbole.
Paid for it, enduring, just look at the TV and look what's going on in the world. There are a lot of billions of people enduring. We're not enduring anything.
You just brought up Timmy twice, by the way.
Is that a path into my psyche that I do miss him?
But in a way, having a new group, does that re-energize you after a difficult offseason?
Sure. I really don't spend a lot of time trying to assess how easy or difficult the season was. Each season it's a different mosaic. It's always exciting and fun to put it together and go to training camp and see who develops and who starts to fit with whom on the court. So it doesn't matter how easy or whether you won a championship the year before or not. You go right back to work and put it together again. That's what this is all about: being consistent and being persistent, in what you do. And I've got a great staff, coaching-wise. Management staff is superb. Everybody participates, and together we'll all figure it out.
I talked a lot last year about that corporate knowledge. Lose Tony, lose Danny, and Manu still on the fence. Who are you going to count on to kind of instill that into the guys who may not know what that corporate knowledge is all about and what it is and what it entails?
All the new players are going to never go home. They're going to be in the gym. It's going to be like torture. They're going to be watching film 24 hours a day and just speaking basketball over and over and over again.
Speaking of torture, did you catch President Trump with President
I don't know why they try to set this dude up. Somebody just asked him about Trump. There's certain people in America that if they just hear that man Trump's name, they're ready to detonate.
I'm not sure this is the forum in which I want to dive in again, so I'll just let that go.
Was it a no-brainer for you to move?
I did watch it.
Move Becky up to that front row?
Oh, Becky. Sure. Becky is a very knowledgeable basketball coach, and it was a natural progression for her to take JB's spot at this point. She's highly respected by the players. She's creative. She's very confident. Her ideas are sound, and to have her on the front of the bench now is an addition that
is an abomination. That's what it is. To have a female coach trying to lord herself over men is an abomination. That's exactly what that shit is. At the end of the day, you've had hundreds, if not thousands, of black men come through the NBA, and Caucasian men for that matter. And they deserve chances to coach NBA teams before she does. The great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar cannot even get an assistant coaching job in the NBA. But Becky Hammon can be sitting on the front bench of an NBA team as a coach. That's a complete abomination.
And that I look forward to. And hopefully it'll be a signal to a lot of other women out there who are pretty capable and can function in that capacity.
What does that even mean? A lot of women that are pretty capable. one would think that to be a coach in the NBA, you should be more than pretty capable.
Does she make you nervous that she might take your spot?
Well,
Somebody just asked him, is he concerned that Becky Hammon might take his spot? I think that she's going to end up taking his spot regardless.
somebody can take my spot eventually anyway, so that remains to be seen. I don't worry about that too much.
Have you had a chance to watch Lonnie at all and your thoughts on him and bringing him into this program?
Well, I'll give one thought. I watched the Summer League from here in San Antonio. I thought I had a better seat sitting watching it on TV and seeing the replays than being in Vegas. And the one thought that went through my head when he would use some of that athleticism and he would do something that was a little bit off the cuff, I started thinking about Manu when he was young, So got to let him run a little bit, see where it goes. But he's a highly intelligent young man.
That was a great draft pick for the Spurs, Lonnie Walker. I think he's going to be a very impactful player for their franchise.
He's got a passion to get better, and he did a good job in the Summer League.
I know a lot of people are, with this Kawhi thing, everybody's talking about that, but you pop up a lot too, and everybody says, well, when is Gregg going to be done? Is he on his way out? Is that all popping in your head?
Why would somebody say that?
Because they care about your well-being and they care about you coaching on the sideline.
No, that's baloney.
I agree. When people ask when you're leaving, it's not for your health's sake. It's because they probably either don't like you or they want your position.
You get to a certain age and everybody says, how long are you going to do this? How long are you going to do what you're doing? When I can't do it anymore or don't want to do it or people don't want to do it with me, then I'll stop doing it.
Agreed.
But I'm fine.
How much of the Team USA responsibility do you weigh on that?
I'm not sure I understand.
As far as, does it play a part in you being a coach of Team USA, upcoming for the 2020 Olympics?
Well, those are two separate things. I mean, if I wasn't coaching the USA team, I'd still be coaching the Spurs. It's a huge responsibility, obviously, and I will think about it probably on a daily basis to some degree, because that's just a natural thing. But it's a humbling thought to coach that team. But it doesn't preclude me from doing what I'm doing with the Spurs. I think Coach K did a halfway decent job coaching Duke and winning over and over and over again with USA basketball. So he led the way and he was able to do it. So hopefully I can follow in his footsteps.
Are you and Larry racing each other, find out, trying to figure out who's going to last longer?
Oh, that's an easy one. Larry's going to last longer. There's no doubt that Larry will last longer.
When he said Larry, he's talking about Larry Brown. Larry Brown is a very good friend of Gregg Popovich. They have a lot in common.
I'm not kidding. It's for sure. Anybody who's known him for a while, like you guys over there, it's true. He'll last longer.
When we hear all the talking heads talking about Coach Pop and, now you coaching Team USA and the great challenges, they all say Coach Popovich, the greatest of all time. When you hear this, what comes through your head?
I would say this. I will certainly put Gregg Popovich near the top of the greatest basketball coaches that I've ever seen. Would I put him above Pat Riley or Phil Jackson? No, but he's right there in that group.
That's a gross exaggeration, and I mean that sincerely. That's an exaggeration. It's very kind, but it's an exaggeration. There are a lot of people out there that can do the job, and I've been fortunate to be asked, and I'm going to do the best I can.
Are you guys done with any off-season?
Are we done with what?
Off-season transactions?
You got to ask RC. He surprises me every day. All right, take care. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
All right, so that's pretty much it on Gregg Popovich's testimony on how events transpired concerning Mr. Kawhi Leonard. So peace.